I've covered many of the 2002 Yu-Gi-Oh formats, like when I did a whole month dedicated to Critter format, or looking at the obscure Magic format, which introduced competitive play to Magic Ruler and Tournament Pack 2, featuring Morphing Jar. Whoa. In my first video on that topic, I briefly mentioned a format before 2003's Android format, so now it's finally time to discuss what I alluded to aside from that one video I made gushing about Pharaoh's Servant. This is the last 2002 format, Imperial format. This period follows the December 2002 list, which is the first to move cards already on the list, as well as adding both Pharaoh's Servant and Tournament Pack 2 cards on it. Witch of the Black Forest, Card Destruction, Witch of the Black Forest, Card Destruction, and Swords of Revealing Light would go from semi-limited to limited. Morphing Jar would go from unlimited to limited, and rightfully so, that card's a bit busted. And brand new cards, Janjo, Limited Removal, Premature Burial, Call of the Haunted, Ceasefire, and Imperial Order would get limited, with Morphing Jar number 2, Nobleman of Crossout, and Backup Soldier getting semi-limited. Pretty much every new power card, especially in hindsight. Although the best power card is hitting that like and subscribe button in that order. The Imperial Order. Yes, this format would get some new releases since the last, which include Pharaoh's Servant, the McDonald's promos, and all of the 2002 video game promos. So technically speaking, Imperial format would range from December 2002 to February 2003, where the video game cards would be finally legalized, but before the release of the Duelists of the Roses promo cards, which are the Magnet Warriors. Some of these promo cards would include Acid Trap Hole and Metal Morph. The only card from the McDonald's pack that would be of any use would be Dark Piercing Light, but it was outdated on release because of face-down hate already existing now, like Nobleman of Crossout, Live Intervention, Ceasefire, and Shadow of Eyes. At least Eyes was hyped up back then because it could switch a set monster to attack mode in end phase, stopping cards like Magician of Faith or Island Turtle. Yeah, for some reason people were discussing Island Turtle, but there was never talk on Prevent Rat and MRD. Maybe because of its low attack. It was clear that PSV would be a heavy-hitting set. As the December list understood, many of these new cards would change the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Once again, not unlike Magic format. Stalling with Swords? No more. Using Card Destruction with Backup Soldier played in an Exodia deck? No thank you. Thank God this was right before Tournament Pack 3 and the release of Needleworm. Janjo, while 100 attack points weaker than Summon Skull, could negate all traps, which shuts off a wide variety of cards like Mirror Force, Solemn Judgment, and a plethora of new traps in PSV. Knock could straight up banish face-down monsters, which counters powerful flip monsters like Magician of Faith and Morphing Jar. Call of the Haunted was a trap version of Monster Reborn, with Premature being an equipped spell version of the card. And of course, Imperial Order is a trap that shuts off spell cards, which is also powerful. Sure, you had to pay life points to keep it up, but you could simply decide not to and destroy it during your standby phase. Another reason Call and Dust Tornado had solid uses. But there was also Solomon's Law Book, which could bypass the maintenance costs of Imperial or even Mirror Wall, which was used to counter beatdown decks as a blanket shrink. After all, historically, beatdown was the most popular deck at this time, even if the jury was still out on Goblin Attack Force's playability. In general, a lot of the traps in PSV would cost you life points like Grave Robber, Mirror Wall, and Imperial Order, so considering a card like Solemn Witches or Gift of the Mystical Elf wasn't too far out of reasoning. Since the later formats would use Janjo's OCG name, Android, as its popular fan-given name, I have given the format in review the name of the second impact card that could negate a whole card type. Thus, Imperial format came to be and is a great way to look at 2002 Yu-Gi-Oh! As a whole, seeing as it covers every release from that time period. You had New Beaters, Harpy's Brother, Goblin Attack Force, Fiend Mega Cyber, Mad Sword Beast, and Hayabusa Knight, all having a benefit of their own, like Mega Cyber's special summoning mechanic, Hayabusa's double attack, and Beast's piercing effect, which was a newly introduced and hyped up mechanic. You now had solid beatdown decks, and even Hayabusa fit quite nicely in the Maha Vilo strategy, since with Axe of Despair equipped on an open board, that's 4k direct damage. Duelists were even looking at new monster type boss monsters like Wing Weaver and Sword Hunter as potential new deck strategies. When looking at traps, Magic Drain was another magic negate where your opponent had to get rid of something. Grave Robber could grab you any power spell your opponent used, Gravity Bind for stall, Light Force Sword for hand control, and Time Seal to deny your opponent's draw phase for a turn. Really, thanks to Gravity Bind, stall/burn/control decks received a big boost. Try out Exodia or Type 0 Magic Crusher with Cyber Jar for potentially a ton of damage. Plus, with new negation like Magic Drain and already existing cards, protecting the castle became easier. Maybe now's the time to play that Toon Blue Eyes/Lord of D deck. Spell cards didn't lack either, with Cold Wave shutting off the back row for a bit, Fairy Meteor Crush adding piercing effect to the equipped monster, Limiter Removal doubling the attack of all your machine monsters, and Prohibition banning any named card. PSV in general had a lot of hyped cards. Thousand Eyes Restrict would be released here too, but it didn't see many play for quite some time. 4-star Ladybug of Doom would be a useful anti-meta tool, and Man-Eater Bug would become useful again to get rid of Janjo, if you could play around the face-down hate. Looking at the release of the set, it was clear that direct and effect damage would be a big factor, negation would also be a big factor, and the black and white nature of beatdown versus stall decks would be the meta call moving forward. I can't emphasize how many powerful cards came out of PSV and haven't seen much experimentation upon its release in a contemporary, more meta-headed sense. Because yeah, back then cards like Wing Weaver, Mirror Wall, and Hayabusa Knight were hyped up, but Grave Robber could have its uses to be warranted for play. Decks did remain fairly similar to Magic format, and yet now you had way more tools and counters to play with. Tomato Control still gave a consistent monster rotation, Stall existed even better now thanks to Gravity Bind, Beatdown had even more beater options, Equipped got buffed too, and Machine decks got more viability thanks to Limiter, Janjo, and Overdrive, a 16k machine that can be searched off Witch. Not even counting already existing machines like Mechanical Chaser, Cannon Soldier, and Guardian of the Throne Room, or what DNA Surgery could net you. Again, Flips got a counter, and back row cards had more than enough hate with PSV, just piling on what Magic Ruler introduced. There is much more intricacy with decks than ever before in Imperial format. So here's hoping this video reaches the right people and inspire all those watching to go out and test out Imperial format and make it, as the kids say, a thing. There's no reason to gloss over formats that legitimately have a list involved. It showcases the evolution of Yu-Gi-Oh! In the way the meta was directed, and PSV certainly made this a unique time to play. Definitely check out my other videos on Magic format and Pharaoh's Servant if you're itching for more 2002 content. And if you're still here, I got a few more decks for you, just for you. Hand Control has some fun options to pick apart your opponent's hand. Flip Control can also keep the control game if your opponent can't find the right answers to the deck. And Molten Aggro gives fire decks a chance thanks to the new Dark Fire Soldiers, Twin-Headed Fire Dragon, and the 500 attack buff Molten Destruction from Magic Ruler gives. Anyways, that's all I got. Peace out.